Hello and welcome. Hey, good morning, Chris. How's it going? Good to see you here. So, released a few things on the channel this past week. We talked a little bit about some bebop lines, talked a little bit about Wes Montgomery, and hopefully inspiring some ideas and practice materials for folks out there. And a lot of this is actually suggested right here on the live stream. So we had some requests for this kind of material this past Sunday. So let's create a nice discussion here of topics and what's kind of interesting folks out there. So I'll start with a little bit of some bebop type language and concepts that you can use to work with things. So first of all, try to listen to those recordings that you like. So try to listen. This is just kind of my suggestion. Try to listen to Parker line and then maybe read it second. And start with the listening experience first. And also when practicing, I try to think in the context of harmony, right? So use a backing track, loop small sections and apply some of these concepts from there. So I was playing at the beginning there, really kind of outlining some of the changes. So, what I'd really recommend is just the general awareness of what's a chord tone and what's not a chord tone, and what's consonant and dissonant, and what you're doing. So on an F major type sound, the more consonant tones are going to be, of course, the F major triad, and perhaps the sixth. So on a level of consonance and dissonance, right? So we're going to have, and there's a little bit of a chromatic movement between the fifth tone of the triad and the sixth. So you can use that to build a line. Right, so kind of connecting those elements there and coming up with movements through the chords, right, which are just kind of constantly changing. So like in the case of, we're talking today about confirmation, right, we have these motions. And when you're creating single lines, just try to develop an awareness of where those chords are moving and how things are kind of shifting around. All right. Well, Chris, anything on your mind today? Starting a little bit later than usual. The Bright Size Life video took a little bit longer. Tried to get those out on Saturday mornings, but ended up taking me quite a long time. I think the drum sound on that is just really the drums are just difficult, I think, on that particular piece, and that's actually my main motivation for uh, redoing that video. So I do have a previous video on that tune, and so I wanted to really get the drums as best I could, and not only the content but also mixing them, which is kind of an ongoing project. Mick, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Chris, great. I've been working on chord tones. Number 3 of Autumn Leaves, and trying to fly with improvisation around it. Awesome. Yeah, so I've got this on my website. I've got these different levels that you work through on a tune, and so that's what Chris is talking about there. So chord tones number 3. That's awesome on Autumn Leaves. Yeah, we talk about guide tones, and one thing you want to do is really learn how harmony moves from one to the next. Kind of a funny thing when I'm teaching, I'll oftentimes say, well, let's play such and such chord, and see the students will look up to the left, because I have this poster of just a whole bunch of chords, and kind of like a little cheat sheet. But we really want to kind of get in depth with chords and how they move from one to the next. So really just having a library of just F and just whatever chord is not going to really work, because you gotta be able to connect from one to the next. You have to make your choice based on that. Right, and get into some voice leading kind of things. Right, so yeah, so that's the kind of thing there, and checking out Charlie Parker's Improvisation. Check out the Omni book, which has his solos and the melodies on really a lot of his recordings, and to kind of take a look through there and see how is the harmony relating to the current chord, right? And also taking a look at is there a chord that he's implying, right, at moments, right? We talk a little bit in the video about the diminished 7 arpeggio on the D7 chord, right? And so flat 9s, that's really kind of a big thing in his playing, is to have or in major or minor, and so really covering those 5-1 type motions. It's really important. So Christopher says or asks, I was just going to ask how improvisation can sound more like a horn player. Oh yeah, great topic. So a couple of things there. As guitarists, we have a lot of phrasing options, right? Because we have this note in a few different spots on the neck, so we can decide to play that with first finger, and then we can play something just above it, play, let's say I'm thinking in D7, so you can do a hammer on, pull off, but if you're on this finger, right? Then that articulation would sound a little different, right? Right, so you would probably choose to do verses, and that, in a sense, will make you sound more like a horn player is trying to get the phrasing so that you're slurring and more natural moments. So let's think a little bit about what a horn player, might do. Well, let's say we have a saxophone player. So if they tongue a note, then that's sort of like the equivalent of us plucking the note. If they don't, and they just keep the air going, and they play a couple of notes. Let's say they attack the first note, or tongue the first note, and play 3 notes, but only have an attack on the first. Then you're going to get this kind of smooth, connected kind of line. So that hammer on pull off can really help with that kind of sound. And try to think how trumpet players achieve this, probably in a pretty similar way. So I don't really play those instruments, but that's sort of my impression is how to make an attack and not an attack. So practicing, legato, trying to keep your left and right hand really, connected, and phrasing options, phrasing choices. So yeah, that is a great question or great topic. I think in the last live stream I talked a little bit about a line like this. So if you play like kind of flat 9, sharp 9, you can do, let's say you have D7, sharp 9, flat 9, you can do hammer on, pull off, or, right. Yeah, especially love their phrasing. Yeah, and then, as far as, that is concerned too, listening to those players and then, kind of choosing really, active listening. Try to think about where do you hear those attacks? Where do you hear the slurs? That's a really great thing about listening is that if you listen actively for a particular topic like phrasing, you can really engage your aural skills and have that translate into guitar playing. So you could say, okay, do a little active listening session and then emulate the sound. If you have a particular line of note choices, of course you can pick those up and see if you can articulate it in the kind of the same way. All right, so a couple of things as far as note choices to consider. Early on there when I was just kind of jamming around, noodling around, on the bridge section of confirmation, here you have a certain chord, right? Let's say you have a chord for quite a while. What do you do on it, right? What do you if you want to create a little motion, what can you do? Well, what I did there was suggested a little bit of some walk up kind of triads, which I actually talked about in that unlocking bebop phrases video. So if I'm on B flat, I can think B flat major, C minor, D minor, E flat major, and then the bridge then goes to E flat minor as a 2/5 into D flat. So then that's perfect place to be, right? E flat major to E flat minor, right? So I'll mute my mic and kind of show you what that sounds like here. Okay, so try that little walk up and hear how the tensions work on that particular chord with the B flat. You can keep it super simple. Do the simple triads there with this. So do a little back and forth. Just break it up. Right, and then you can do that same diminished 7 idea over the A flat 7, right? Kind of the beauty of that, I think, is that the flat 9 of A flat 7, it just kind of cries out for that 5th of the D flat major. Right, so we have this kind of concept of playing something that is outlining the chord changes, or something that is contrast to it, which gives your lines a little more tension and a little more motion there. So those are some really nice concepts to kind of work with. So the flat 9 on dominant 7th chords, see if you can kind of get comfortable with that. That can go, so in this example I'm on G. So G7 flat 9, that can go to E flat major. So, but it can also go to C minor. Oftentimes you find it in minor. All right, well, everybody, let's see. Let's remind folks to like and subscribe. Turn on the notifications. I apologize for coming on a little bit late today, but just kind of ran over on my project yesterday, and took longer than anticipated, so everything's kind of running a little behind. Talk a little bit about some listening things. Last night I was listening to the Question and Answer album, Pat Metheny. Just really dazzled by his improv work on that, his tone and his sound. Originally I in the process of trying to work at my own mixes and my own sound, I thought I'm gonna listen to some trio work, because that's what I've been really focusing on, and just listen for those sounds of how the drums are balanced with the guitar and the bass. And so, well, I'll go with some Matheny. So I was listening to that album and checking out this tune, Old Folks, which I haven't played in a really long time. And it's on that album, and he does a beautiful, beautiful thing on that. So who knows? Maybe that's in the near future. So Old Folks. That's a really cool tune. But I was listening to also on that album Solar, which I should probably redo that. I should maybe redo that video. I think I did a video at one point. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining in with me today. I'm gonna do a little playing, a little noodling. Let me know if you have any questions as we go along. And if anybody's tried out the Bright Size Life recording, hope that's a good one. I that one's, they're all really important to me, but that one I just had a lot of challenges with the drums and went through so many iterations of the drum parts, and then not just that, but just kind of levels and trying to get everything to sound good and translate across different devices, phones and things. So really took me a lot more time than I had anticipated, but trying to meet this goal of seeing if I can get a melody video out once a week. So I've been doing that for a few weeks, but trying to get quicker at it. All right, everybody, I'm gonna what's good software for recording? Good software for recording. So I use Ableton, and I'm pretty happy with that. I have a couple of little frustrations with it, but I imagine there's going to be a couple frustrations with every piece of software, let alone recording software. So that's my DAW, and so I would recommend that. And I have actually been helping folks learn how to use that on a basic level. How to record into it and all that. You also need an interface, Chris, but I'm sure you already have one of those, but a lot of folks have the Scarlett Focusrite, I think, Scarlett, which seems to work really nicely. Yeah. So yeah, it's a great thing. And then for video, for me, I use the OBS for like right now. I'm streaming from using the OBS Studio software, which is free, but you can record videos of yourself on there. And then I used DaVinci Resolve, and that's also a free edition. But on Ableton, I do have the paid version of that software. So Layman, thanks for joining. So language is progressions and harmony is chord tones. So improving is the combo. Yeah. So yeah, harmony. Harmony. Yeah, that's a good question. Good point. How do we think about this? So harmony, yeah, kind of like a moment in time. So you've got a stack of tones. Yeah, and then progressions would be how that harmony moves over the course of time, right? Right. So how does this move to the next thing. So consider, kind of like what I was talking about earlier, voice leading. What remains the same and what changes, essentially, right? So these two notes, I'm going from G7 or G13 to G minor. So these two notes are going to change, and these two stay the same, right, to G minor, for example. So when creating melodic lines, want to move with and through harmony in a moment. So harmony to understand what's happening, how are you relating to what the piano player is doing, the bass player is doing, the other guitar player is doing, or if you're just playing on your own, knowing what are the changes of the tune you're doing, or what is the implied harmony, and then working at playing your lines in a relationship to that. So it's really absolutely crucial. And I think a lot of us guitarists, we come from this world of the pentatonic scale and blues, which is great. But, in that context, you can really kind of hunker down and just, play the blues scale and all that, and just what, you can kind of make that happen throughout the blues progression. So when it comes to playing changes, we want to, even in the blues, develop the ability to really say what the changes are and kind of articulate, that, so that sometimes you might be playing and then really kind of be able to say those changes. Right, so Alcatraz, thank you for your compliment on the lighting. So yeah, I've got this little softbox thing going in the room. Other software options for folks. Reaper, I hear really good things about Reaper. I've tried it out, and I think that's pretty good as far as I understand it. If you want some super basic stuff, try Audacity. So I've used that for some just kind of quick recordings and stuff. So you might experiment with that and just dabble with that. I think Ableton has a free intro version, I believe, and you can definitely get started and learn some basics. Layman asks, cadence. Well, cadence is a resolution and harmony, which you can imply, with melody. So, we have, let's say we're thinking Bright Size Life, right? So, what happens there at the end of we have these different resolutions. Let's say the second A, I think it's the second A. We go from a G to D, right? So that's kind of like sometimes known as a church cadence or a plagal cadence. So what you do is you in a melodic way, you can outline those things through arpeggios, or just general awareness of what's consonant and what's dissonant. At the end of that progression, you have the 5 to the 1, right? So that's another type of cadence. And then you can have moments where it sounds like it might go one place, but it goes to another place. So let's say you had a G7, and this is not necessarily in that tune, but let's say you're in the key of C, and you have G7, and then you go to A flat or something like that. So definitely a lot to study there. Thank you, Layman, for your topics. All right, I'm gonna do a little noodling here, and I'm gonna hang out for another about 10 minutes. Thanks for joining us today. If you'd like to support the channel, check out the merchandise section. Got some mugs and books. Chris is really happy with his mug, so thanks so much, Chris, for supporting the channel and this content through your support. Definitely appreciate that. All right. All right, well, I'm going to kind of play around here a little bit, and let me know if you have any additional questions. Okay, so we can create all sorts of tension and release through the lines, and so just kind of a couple takeaways that I'm thinking about as folks explore things. Some priorities in your practice. Focus on 5/1s. Focus on 2/5s. Focus on secondary dominants and closely related keys. I would really recommend focusing more on music fundamentals, and then branching out into more specifics of modes, right, and chord scales. So if you feel kind of lost, and I just bring this up because I hear this a lot, lost in the whole world of modes and chord scales, just take a step back, and there's nothing lesser to it. It's actually really a mastery of fundamentals that we're all trying to achieve here. So know key signatures, know what chords are in the key signatures, understand the 5/1 and in the relative major, the 5/1 and the relative minor. If you can understand those two things, then you will understand chord scales that apply to that, and then also secondary dominants, right? So, like this tune, Confirmation, there's a lot of 2/5 motion, there's a lot of 5/1 motion, that just it's just a matter of kind of understanding and kind of coloring those things. Uh, my coffee tastes like a 251. That's funny. Uh, Great coffee mug. Yeah, thanks. And yeah, so it's kind of the podcast, the podcast logo. Podcast for me is it's really kind of big deal thing, and I'm working to make it better. I'm gonna be adding in more backing tracks and playing into that as I progress with my knowledge of music production. So I've been kind of trying as I go along to do those kinds of things. And but I think maybe the last couple of months I just took a step back and focused more on just playing solo guitar examples and stuff like that. So yeah. Yeah, exactly, Chris. So using the ears as well, and that's my main goal on that is to have folks be able to listen to that if they have their guitar there, and kind of find some of these notes or chords, and I name those out loud, and then also if just in the car and say, okay, oh yeah, I hear that chord, and I can imagine that where that is on the fingerboard. So I really try to offer a really kind of user friendly kind of thing on that. Um, uh, do I have a study on the chords on the top 4 strings? Well, actually, on my website, which I haven't really officially released the membership um, uh, thing just yet, but I do have a series of exercises on that, which is kind of like Chris was talking about. I have that available to my private students. So at the moment, but I am going to open it up to kind of a subscription-based thing for folks who are not in the lessons. But yeah, I could take you through the autumn leaves, and we go, and focus on some chords that are on the top four strings. But there's a whole kind of related thing that happens on the first 3 levels of that practice that you want to kind of build up first. I think that's level 3 or level 4, but we do something like this. On the autumn leaves. Or maybe I think we end up going here. I mean, something like that. But yeah, so know your inversions, especially the first and the third inversions, because that will set you up nicely for being able to do most things. But you want to know all the inversion types. Let's say A minor 7 and so on. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for joining in today. Do appreciate your questions and your interactions. Makes this more fun for me as well to be able to talk about things. So I've been doing midweek videos on some improvisation kinds of topics. You're welcome, Chris. Okay. Miss a couple of our regulars here. Maybe I threw them off by starting a little bit late, and I only announced this morning. Chris is one of our regulars too, and thanks Thanks for joining in. Thanks for supporting the channel. Chris, you've been awesome, dude. And Chris has his own channel to check out where he's working on all these topics and things that he's pursuing in his own playing. So check him out and follow him. Layman, you're welcome. Thanks so much for joining in today. All right, everybody. Maybe I'll play a little bit more and then I'll say my farewell here for the day. Mute my microphone. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining. I do appreciate it. Have a great Sunday, a great practice session, and I will see you all in the next one.